Well, hello. Sorry, my voice is going to be a little bit louder because I talk into this mic. So first of all, I just want to say thank you so much. I have noticed a huge difference in the way that you guys host people. And there was an instance that I'm just going to pinpoint real quick. Melissa and I, Melissa walked up a family, and this is just to say thank you. She walked up a family, and I was at the kids' check-in, and she said, hey, I'm going to actually pass you off to Susie. Susie's going to get your family checked in. And while they were waiting in line, because a lot of you guys have seen that sometimes we get really jam-packed at kids' check-in. I mean, we will have, I promise you, I think that they all called each other, and they're like, hey, let's all go check out church together at the same service at the same time. And we'll have 10 families in line that we're trying to get all of their information, making sure that we're spending time with each family that's right there, and sometimes they're waiting in line. And so what Melissa did is she kind of hung out with them for a little bit. She hung out with them in line and just stayed with them and continued the conversation. Hey, how old are all your kids? I don't even know what you were asking them, but you were just asking them questions. And so by the time that I was handed the family, she was able to say, hey, this is Steve and her wife. I don't remember anybody's name, so but it was this family. And she was able to pass them off. And then in that moment, I got to kind of make a joke. I was like, hey, I don't have as good of an accent as her, but I'm going to try to help check your kids in. And that moment happened so smoothly. That transition was so beautiful that family felt welcomed the entire time. That makes a huge difference for these families that are dropping off their children. I don't have kids of my own, but I watch the hesitancy of the parents as they're dropping off their kids for that first time. It's terrifying. You have no idea who's back here. You don't know these people personally. It might be your first time, and you're like, do they watch my kids? What do they do back there? You have so many questions about what is actually happening back here that transition from first impressions to kids ministry check-in is so important that they just feel attended to that entire time. And so what I want to do today is just give you guys a little bit of an overview. I'm not going to go into all the details of kids ministry because there is a lot. But I want to give you a little bit of overview. So if these families are asking you questions, you might have a couple of the answers. The first thing that happens when we get that family, and let me actually start this really quick. If you get a family that's asking you, so before they come, maybe they have their kids, maybe they don't want to check in their kids yet. I've noticed this a lot, that sometimes their first time, they don't want their kids to go back. They want them to be with them so that they can check out the church as a family, which it's not our ideal, but it's okay. What they can do is they can pre-register their kids online. On our website at coastalcommunity.tv, there is a plan your visit, and it helps us so much because what they do is they fill out all of their kids' information that we have to get at that kids check-in, and we are able to input all of their information. So the moment that they walk up, we actually already know some of the families that are coming for the first time because we have their names, we have all their information. Oh yeah, I just put your information in this morning. It's so awesome. We have here it all is, and it makes that transition so much smoother. So if a parent or if a family is new and they don't want to check in their kids, say, hey, when you do want to check in your kids, just pre-register them online or plan your visit, and it makes that transition so much smoother. So what happens when you guys drop them off to us? We have to get the parents' names first and last. We have to get their date of birth. A lot of times parents do not like to tell us their date of birth. They're embarrassed about their age or whatever it is. I don't know, it's different. The reason why we have to have their date of birth is because if they lose their tag for their child, we have to check their driver's license. And we want to make sure that their driver's license matches the date of birth that's on our computer system. So that is why we ask a lot of parents, once we tell them that, they're like, okay, that's fine. But until we tell them that, they're a little hesitant. From there, we check in all of their kids. We ask for allergies. We ask for their birthdays. We want to get their birthdays because their birthdays are going to assign them to a room. This is where the fun part gets. So we have different rooms, all of our different rooms. We have an orange room that is 0 to 1 years old. The moment that they turn 1 year old, they go to our yellow room. That's from 1 to 2. The moment that they turn 3, they go to our teal room, which is 3 to 4. From there, they go to green room, which is 5 through kindergarten. So a 6-year-old can actually be in there if they're still in kindergarten. Once they hit first grade, they come into this room. This is the 1st through 5th grade room. So the question or the hardship that we get every single time is, can my kid go into class with their sibling? No. That's the short answer. Here's why. And I do want to have you guys know a little bit of the why behind the what. So a lot of times that can be a really sharp answer and we can just say no. Maybe it's their first time. A lot of times we get first time guests and they're like, hey, all of their friends are in another room. Can our kid just this one time, can this one time, can they go with their friends? And the answer is no, because of safety. Number one, biggest reason is because of safety. We have ratios that we base all of our kids' ministry rooms off of, and when those ratios are thrown off, it makes it unsafe for your child. We have a certain personnel that are in those rooms that are based upon the ratios of the students that we get every single week. And if we were just to throw random kids in random rooms, it would mess up all of those ratios. So the biggest thing that we do is for safety. The other thing is that the curriculum is based upon those age groups. And so what happens a lot of times is parents will say, well, my child is advanced. And so how we say that, some parents are really realistic about that, some parents are not realistic about that, and there is no line to cross, and so we keep it very black and white. If your child is that age, they are that age, they stay in that room. And how we cast vision for that, how we tell the why behind the what of that is so great. I love that your child's advanced. Let's make them a leader inside of that classroom. They can actually help the teacher do some of the projects. They can help that teacher teach. And then as that child moves up to the next room, they are actually going into that next room a leader. Because we are in the business of creating leaders. And so we want to create leaders from that 1 to 2 room so that when they turn 3 years old, that they are ready to actually sit in a class and get ready and help the teacher. And then when they're 4, they're helping the teacher teach the 3 and 4 year olds, and they're setting the example for that classroom so that when they move up to the 5 and kindergarten room, they know how to behave in that classroom. And we're creating a leader the whole way up so that by the time they get to this big room, they're actually a leader sitting in here and not just a consumer. And that's what we are. We talk about at Coastal all the time. We want to be attributors, not just consumers. And so we want to teach that from kids ministry all the way up. And let me tell you, I have noticed the biggest difference from kids that come through kids ministry that end up in Catalyst are leaders. Yeah. Every time. Yep. The ones that have not been in kids ministry or maybe haven't grown up in church, it takes so much longer to make them into a leader inside of a youth ministry versus the kids that have been taught boundaries and have been taught leadership and have been taught how to be a leader in a classroom where they don't want to be. And listen, I deal with this all the time at Catalyst, and I'll kind of explain how Catalyst works too, because we break them up into their ages and their grades. And all the time I struggle with this because students are bringing their friends and they're like, hey, I'm in 9th grade, can I please just go into the 11th and 12th grade room? And I'm like, listen, no, I can't have you go in there because 11th and 12th graders are dealing with things that you might not be dealing with, and those conversations are so different. And so that's what we just want to create. It's all throughout our culture. There's a point where you just have to have a black and white line or else the gray areas get really, really confusing. So safety is number one. Curriculum is another reason. And then, so a lot of times people will say, well, why not just my kid? I have actually, at the kids check-in, I have dealt with so many very, very angry parents at me. I've gotten blamed for their behavior after I tell them no. I have been told that it was my fault that their kid threw a temper tantrum. I have dealt with some crazy, crazy stuff because I have to tell them no. And again, it goes back to safety. And a lot of times they say, why not just my kid? Well, if we do it for one, we have to do it for all. And that would just be fair, correct? So at some point, fair kind of has to go out the door, and there has to be black and white lines. You do not have to, you can always refer back to a kids ministry volunteer if you don't feel comfortable having those conversations. We totally understand. But we do just want you guys to know the why behind the what. It's not just a set of empty rules because we want to be mean. We're not trying to have a bad experience, and we do try to do everything that we can to make sure that people have awesome experiences, but in those experiences there are still some rules that we have to abide by for the safety of these children. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit of the why. Sometimes I know when we pass them off back to you, if you're walking them down the kids' hall, sometimes you're getting maybe the repercussions of that no, and they're like, well, you know what, fine, I'm not going to walk my kid in there. Or maybe they come to the auditorium and then you guys are having to deal, they're like, well, I'm not taking my kid back in there because they told me no. Or I know that you're having that, and so I wanted everybody to be on the same page of the why behind the what. It's not just a very mean rule of saying, no, your kids can't do this. It's because of safety. And so I just wanted you guys to understand that and know that. How the tags work. So once we do check in a kid, we get in all their information, we get their date of birth, we get their room assignments from the computer. We print out a tag. On that tag, it has their name, the kid's name, with a little code on the bottom. That code matches the parent tag. The parents wear those tags so that security knows that they are allowed back in the room. Their first time that they are here, we do allow the whole family to come and to check out the rooms. Where that gets crazy is sometimes they bring mommy, daddy, grandpa, grandma, cousin, auntie. We have 20 people that are walking down this hall, and it gets insane. You guys have seen it in between the 10:15 and 11:30. Kids' hallway is atrocious. And so what we are trying to create is that the family can see it, because I would want to see a room. If I was walking my kid into a room, I want to see how that's done, and I would want my family to be a part of that. But after that, we're trying to make it to where only one parent comes down this hallway to pick up their child, unless you're picking up multiple children in different rooms. We are trying our hardest to make it easier on security, because, and I know Brian, you're on security, a lot of times families are just walking in, oh, well, my wife's in there, but they don't have a sticker, or oh, my cousin, or, everybody wants to walk down the kids' hallway, and it is making this kids' hallway crazy. So we are trying to limit it to one parent picking up their kid. So if somebody asks you, hey, why is security being tough? Because a lot of times security gets a brunt of it too. What do you mean I can't go down there? I'm sorry, you don't have your tag. The tag is so important. And this is another reason why, is we don't know anybody's family dynamic, okay? We don't know if there's been a divorce. We don't know if this is a random family member that the kid knows who they are, but they're not supposed to be picking them up. And if we release them to a person that is not their parent, or not the person that signed them in, that is now our liability. So again, everything goes back to safety, the annoyance of those tags. If Josh Mitchell loses his tag, we have to check his ID. I know Josh, I work with Josh all the time. I know that that's his kid. We still check his ID. And if I'm going to check my pastor's ID, I'm going to check every single volunteer, or any person that comes in here. And so I know that that's happened to some of you guys before, and I apologize for the ruggedness or the roughness but you should know me by now. It's just for safety precautions. And if we're going to hold him to that standard, we're going to hold everybody down from that standard. Yep. So that's why we have to do that. Those tags are so important. Again, just so that we're not releasing anybody's kids to somebody that they're not supposed to be going home with. And we, like I said, we don't know the details of everything, so we just need to have that tag. And that's the only way that they can get down the hallway. If a family is waiting in line, I just wanted to say thank you so much for hosting them while they're there. A lot of times we're struggling with either a parent going through the questions. It's taking a little bit of time, so the longer that you can kind of stay there and just host that family, it creates for less awkwardness while they're waiting in line. What we are trying to establish inside Kids Check-In is that the moment that you hand them off to us, they are now our responsibility, and we're going to walk them down the hall and host them and show them everything and answer any questions that they have about kids ministry. Our personnel is a little bit short right now, so that it has created some problems. So thank you guys for just being flexible and being around and kind of sticking around for that family, just because we can't always walk the family back. Sometimes it's just Vicki and I, and there's 10 families in line, and we're like, your classroom is down the hall on the right-hand side, second door on the right, and we're like, I'm so sorry, I can't host you the rest of the way. But we are trying to establish that. We're building up our personnel to try to be able to take care of that. But if you see us maybe struggling, if it looks kind of busy, maybe just offer to say, hey, you know what, I can walk the family down the hallway and I can show them where their classrooms are at. Voyagers, I don't know if you guys know about this, but we actually have a special needs class, 4:30 on Saturday and 9 a.m. on Sunday. Everybody that is in there, I had Caitlin write this for me. She says, each of our volunteers have been trained in some capacity, whether that's formally or informally. They have psych degrees, special education degrees, and hands-on training to be able to equip varying ages and disabilities. So we have a plethora of knowledge inside of that room that is able to handle a lot of disabilities. So if you have somebody that's talking to you about their niece or their cousin or anything that has any type of disability, maybe just mention that we have a special needs class. There are very few churches that have this available, and it's actually even gotten attention from other religions because their synagogues and stuff like that don't have the capability to be able to handle these type of children, and so they are actually coming to our church for that. So it is a huge, huge thing, and we just wanted you guys to know about that. Catalyst is Wednesday nights at from 7 to 8:30. It's for our 6th through 12th graders. It's our youth group. If any of you guys were a part of youth group, it's a lot like Big Church, but it's designed more for them. So when they come in, they are actually in this room. We play a game. We do some worship. We have a short version, a short message. I went a little bit over this past Wednesday, however, but we do have short messages because I find that the importance is when they break into breakouts. So what we do is right after about a 15 to 18 minute message, they break out into small groups based upon their grades. So we have 6th grade, 7th and 8th grades together, 9th and 10th grades together, 11th and 12th grade, boys and girls are separate. They break in there, they have their own leaders, or what I call them, their own pastors that are talking them through the points that we were talked about in the message, or they're just talking about life. So again, when we have those breakouts, when we have those lines that are breaking apart different grades, I get this on Wednesday night too. And again, it's just for safety. It's crowd control. It's being able to know that we have enough leaders staffing the students that are in there. And so that's what we do on there. How we run that is we do 3 weeks of a series, and then what we do is called a Connect Night. Our Connect Night has no structure at all. It is just a fun night. It is a fun night for them to invite their friends. It's either a game, we do color wars, so all the different grades break out into different colors, and they do challenges, eating contests, throwing up, all of that. It's great, it's so much fun. Those are my favorite nights. And then we do a themed night every time. So it either matches the holiday that's in that month, or it's just a challenge night for them to invite their friends. So just that you guys have a little bit more information on that. Registration is very similar to that of kids. They come in, we check them in, we register them in, we put their name, we put their age, all that stuff. Check them in. Parents sometimes are there, sometimes they're not. They're teenagers, they're responsible for their own. I actually told a teenager this past week, I said, hey, I need you to stop giving me a hard time, or I'm going to tell your parents that you cannot come here anymore because I'm not here to babysit. And you are, like, by the time that you are in middle school, you are responsible for yourself. And so they are able to check themselves in, they're able to be a part of this, they know where their classrooms are, everything's very, very clear and explained to them. And so what I wanted to do, don't want to take up too much of this meeting, but if you guys have any questions, whether it's for kids ministry or youth ministry, anything like that, or policies, check-in, I want to give you guys some time for that.
Voyagers was Thursday, right?
I'm sorry?
Voyagers was Thursday?
No, Voyagers is Saturday at 4:30 and Sunday at 9 a.m. during service.
As far as the Voyagers, is it only at 9? They're not available for the other services? Because I get that a lot.
Correct. So it's 4:30 on Saturday, and then the 9 a.m. service on Sunday, because that room transforms into all of our volunteers, kids, that serve multiple services. So what they do is they'll sit in their class for the 9 a.m. and then if a parent is staying for multiple services, that kids lounge, it turns into kids lounge so that your kids can go into there to just hang out and play video games, watch TV. It's non-structured so that they're not sitting in the same class multiple times and getting bored. Our biggest goal for your guys' children is that they love church. We don't want church to be a place where, I have to sit in a class twice. We want them to have fun here. We want them to love church. And so what that room does is that provides some freedom for them to do the things that they love to do while you serve multiple services, or while you guys are sitting one and serving one, they're learning that as well.
When you were talking about hosting them, if you guys are busy at the desk and walking them to the classroom, does the person who does that have to be background checked? Because I know we're not supposed to send anyone down that hallway.
Great question. Yes. Everybody that walks down the kids' hallway has to be background checked. If you are not background checked, it is so easy. If you come find me the service that you're here, I can background check you in 2 seconds. The moment that that's approved, you are free to roam down these hallways. Everybody that we have back in kids ministry is background checked, and that's how they're allowed to come down this hallway. And so that was a great question. They would have to be background checked.
So ideally, if it's a family, if someone on the team is background checked, they should be the ones to walk them through.
Yeah, and like I said, we are trying to build up kids check-in to where we're doing that because we want to create that culture where you guys can kind of go back to your original spot and kind of keep, not separate, but just be able to keep you guys in your area. And that gives, honestly, it really gives more value to kids check-in because you're not just typing in names the whole time, you're actually getting to host families. It gives more value to that role as well. So we are trying to create that. So just kind of in the interim, if you see the kids check-in place struggling, which you can, because there's like a line out the door, maybe just kind of linger there if you are background checked and say, hey, Susie, or Vicky, or whoever's there, hey, I'll take that family back for you if you need me to. Yes, sir.
What criteria do you use for determining when to call parents during
Great question. So the tag, the code that is on the children's name matches obviously the parent tag that is on the parent. If, okay, so when it goes from babies, every room is so different, I'm so sorry. So from 0 to 2, either in orange or yellow, if there's a kid, let's say they drop off their kid and their kid is having a really, really hard time just being away from their parent, we will not allow that kid to cry for longer than 10 minutes. Why we do that is because we don't want that. I don't care if it's a baby remembers. And we do not want a bad experience for anybody at this church. And so if that kid is uncontrollably crying, honestly, we probably only make it to about 7 minutes. We call that parent immediately. And what do I mean by call? We type that code into a thing on our iPads that are in each room. That sends it to ProPresenter in the main service, in the production booth, and that goes on the screen. And so that they can see, oh, there's a red thing, let me check, let me make sure that doesn't match my code. If it matches my code, that's my kid. I need to go back and figure out what's happening to my kid. So when it comes to the babies, we do not want the babies to be crying hysterically. Now there's like a fake cry, and you can tell the difference between a fake cry and a real cry. And so if they're fake crying, we'll kind of try to distract them with some of the toys that are back here and everything. But if they're like dry heaving or anything like that, we just call the parent, because obviously that kid just, it maybe doesn't feel good. I mean, there's so many different things. Sometimes that baby just doesn't feel good, or they're teething, or they just want to be with their mom. And so when that happens, this is another thing, we do tell them about the nursing mother's room. So if you do see a mom walking in, from TJ's standpoint, or from a communicator in general, it is really, really tough when a baby is crying in the middle of your message to stay focused. Any distractions that are happening in that room, when you are on a platform and you are trying to like stay focused on the message that you have prepared and that God is like speaking through you, when kids are screaming or babies are crying or people, I mean, you see it all because you can see everybody in that room. And so it does cause for a huge distraction. That doesn't mean that we're not going to let a child go into service, but we are going to try to do everything that we can to deter from that. So we do want to tell them that there is a room, hey, there's a private room that if you want to just go sit in there, it's very quiet for you and your baby. It's live stream in there, there's a TV, there's really, really comfy relaxation chairs. And so we just want to let them know, if you see a parent walking out with maybe their baby and maybe we've failed to communicate that, say, hey, you know, just to let you know, we do have a room over the left-hand side for nursing mothers. If you want to go sit in there, you are more than welcome to sit in there with your baby. And if they want to still go into service, by all means, let them sit in service. But also maybe, if you can, like I said, there are ways to go about this. You don't want to be mean. You do not want to ruin their experience. That is number one thing. But we do have that back section right in the back for the volunteers and the families with babies. And maybe you just kind of put them right there if you can. If you can't, guide them. If you can't, let it happen. But we are trying to help TJ out too. Oh, great question. So this is great. Where you guys meet for first impressions, there is actually a room, that door, right when you walk in your first door, that door right after that is the nursing mother's room. Leaving the auditorium. If you go out of the auditorium and you make a left into your first impressions meeting room, yep.
Yeah,
It's going to be that door right behind you.
locker rooms where we lock them.
Yeah. So to the right is Kids Lounge or Voyagers. That's where our special needs classroom is at 9 a.m. And then it switches over to the Kids Lounge. You'll kind of see me have like a little trail of kids sometimes following behind me like little ducklings. That's our volunteers' kids. They're going back into their fun room. And so the nursing mother's room is connected to that, but it's in that back corner.
I just want to add something.
Yeah.
Especially for the Saturday teens and the 12:45, even to go in here to grab a table or ice cream, you can ask your team to get background checked, because if you need people to grab tables, they need to walk this hall, they need to be background checked. So maybe ask the whole team to be like, just talk to Susie, fill out the paper, and then you can help.
It's not even a paper. I can do it on the computer in 2 seconds. It's really, really easy. And that's just so that we can confidently tell all of our parents, hey, everybody that's been back that enters these doors is background checked. Know that in phase 2, the church will be designed a little bit differently, so there will be no need for anybody to cross paths or to go into kids ministry unless you are a part of kids ministry. How we are designed right now kind of makes that a little bit difficult, because I know that you guys do need to get down the halls and that kind of stuff. And so the background check takes 2 seconds, and then we can confidently tell a parent, hey, your kid is safe back here. Every single person has been background checked, and we know that without a shadow of a doubt.
Is there going to be discussion about the way to identify volunteers in a background check?
Yeah. I have problems getting my kids, they volunteer in here and they don't have tags. And I come get them after I serve, and you know, the guy was like, you can't come back here. You don't
Yeah. Yeah, so if your kids are volunteering, we kind of consider them as adults. And they are responsible for themselves, because that does happen quite a lot, where I have to run back and grab a volunteer that is a child, like that is a student. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we gotta go. That is a little bit of a challenge, just because, like I said, they're considered, by the time that they're a volunteer in kids ministry, we're considering them an adult. You're responsible for yourself. You need to walk yourself out, because you're not going to get a parent tag for them to check them in and out, unless you want to. We could check, but then I checked in as a kid.
Right, so how do you, like, if I tell the guy, oh, I have a background check,
Well, the reason that they stop you is because you don't have a parent tag, not because you're not background checked.
But they don't know if she's back.
yeah, right, how do you know?
They're not gonna know.
And you know, listen, she'll sit back there all day long.
Sure that the person is risen. So even like our check-in check for first impressions, like
Yeah.
there's a way to identify who there, who's doing background check.
Let me write that, or Sylvia or Josh, can somebody just write that down real quick, and then we'll figure out. So how to identify.
So it's okay to go back there and choose not to get stuff to do whatever we can or
I know, check, BG, checked, or something like that. We might be able to create like a drop-down box or something.
It's an honor system right now.
It is an honor system, yeah.
We would have a way to identify ourselves.
Maybe it's simple.
There should be a way,
Yeah.
well, on your label, everybody's got a label when they're serving, so then can there be something with a check mark on there?
Yeah, that's what they were all saying of, is there a way to kind of put something
Yeah,
on our
put their
label? Yeah.
background check.
Yeah.
Check.
And then that would, because you serve, that would create an opportunity for you to be able to come back.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's ideal. No, not at all. No, some people maybe think it's difficult. It's not difficult. It literally takes me 2 seconds. I can do it during any service, like in the middle of service. Remember, my busy time is your guys' downtime. So, well, actually, no, we're about the same. But in between services, we are so slammed right there. But during service, I can help any of you. So if it's the service that you're serving, if you just want to kind of peel back for 1 second, once the message starts, it really dies down for kids ministry check-in, and I can do that for you guys, or any staff can. Yes.
Can you go back for a second to young children and so toddlers and or infants coming into the auditorium for service or some parents? I want to make sure I'm clear on
Yeah.
this. I serve 4:30 on Saturdays and frequently have, I don't stop them, I don't say anything.
Yeah.
But they come in and then, you know, if the children start fussing, which oftentimes young ones will, you know, you're saying, which makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a distraction for,
Yeah.
you know, our pastor. So how would you suggest I handle that as an auditorium host?
So if I can take that one, on my.
Yeah.
So again, we want to, the guest experience is of the utmost importance. But we also realize that we do need to try and help and address the situation as best as we can. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna print out, they're really cute. We stole the idea from Bayside. It's a very friendly card messaging, and that our door people, when they come in and we see that they have a kid with them and they're bringing that into the auditorium, and again, if they've gotten to the part where they're bringing them in, we already know that like 2 or 3 other volunteers have already had some type of conversation with them. If they're bringing it in, what our door people can do is give them this card and say, hey, and basically the card says, just so you know, for your care and convenience, we have a nursing mother's rooms, we have kids rooms. So it's a non-invasive way of giving them that messaging. But let's say that they read the card, they're cool, whatever, they still want to go in the auditorium. Again, it's the power of persuasion. Hey, for your convenience, we have these seats right by the door. If your kid gets fussy, it's a quick exit out, you know, and everything is said so lovingly, everything is said, again, like, what?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
like you're
sensitive.
caring for the person and not because it's going to affect he. It's like, I
Exactly. Yeah.
care about you and your kid.
And
I
your
know
needs.
you're not
Yeah.
going to be comfortable. So.
So, but again, let's say that everything has failed and they're sitting in the front row with a crying baby. Which I light and fluffy as we can make it.
Are you saying we already have these cards, or you're saying?
No, we're ordering them, we're getting them.
I had that situation where we don't have cards, where the
Yeah.
baby's crying in the back, and I went up to the mom and I was like, oh, if you're interested, we have a nursing room, and the message is, live.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, thank you, and I helped her with her bag and took her
Yeah.
back in, so
Yeah.
even if we don't have the card, I think we can suggest in like a nice way, help them with their stuff, and most of the time they either didn't know when they're getting there, or they're very accepting of you leaving them out.
Yeah.
And maybe just having, like, I think coming from a mom,
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, online.
Yeah. I think a mom can relate to that so much more, and hopefully, I mean, if there's not a mom on your team, but if you can send a mom to go talk to that mom, I think that they're gonna be sensitive to that because they've been there. They've been in that restaurant, they've been in wherever where they're kind of struggling with that, and you can kind of say, hey, just so you know, like, if this is super uncomfortable for you, we have this room for you that I think would be better for you. You know what I mean? And you guys get to relate from that aspect, as opposed to me walking up there and be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Be quiet, shut up. I'm gonna sit here.
And another thing too is what I typically see is parents that sit out in the lobby is also not great. You can't, I mean, if you have like a bunch of parents sitting in the lobby, there's really not a whole lot you can do about that. But a couple weeks ago, I had a dad like sitting there with his kid, missing the message. Like he was like trying to hear it, you know, and I felt bad for him, but then I was like, oh, nursing home, there's nobody in there.
Oh, be careful.
Yeah, right. You gotta check. Like, go check and make sure. But if it's available, like, put them in there because they're like, he actually came up and thanked me. He was like, hey, like, you know, have a woman check, like, you know, it's. But like again, it's about the experience. Like, this dude is just sitting there with his kid, missing out. Like when he could have been listening to the message. Like it was, and that made his experience better. He's come back 3 weeks in a row now.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes they had trouble back in kids ministry. We called them, they came to get their kid, and now they're sitting in the hallway so that their spouse can enjoy the message or something like that. So that is really cool. But just let him know. I would make it very clear to him, hey, if a mom walks in here, that's priority.
Sure.
Not rudely, but that's priority because she needs to do something inside of there. So
Yes.
I would kind of make that a little clear.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have a baby. She just turned one, done with that face. But a lot of times I was in that room and men were coming in to check to see if it was like available or not. My suggestion: please always send a woman because it's awkward on both fronts. You know, it's like okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you said, it goes back to this question you said about that being a nursery. A lot of times, it's the father leaving the outdoor with the child, go out there.
And they can come up to kitchen.
But, 100%. And yeah,
Again, like.
he said, somebody to pre.
It's not gonna work every time,
Yeah.
but in that instance, it worked. Again, like I want to say this too. Like let's go back to a little bit of a vision. Like all of this, we need to be unified. Like unity is the only way this is gonna work. And I'm glad we're all sitting in this room understanding this information. I know it's a lot, but the whole goal is to be unified and go. Like, hey, if Susie, like, you know, back Susie up on this because I'm telling you, kids check-in people, like, it's like the smallest team, but they are put through the ringer every single weekend. And people, like, it's one of those jobs where pretty much people are mad at you all the time, right? So the more we can back them up and support them and go, like, you know, if they're mad about something, like, reiterating, oh man, it's a safety issue. Like we want to make sure your kids are safe and protected. You know, if it's just they're ticked off, like blow Susie up. You know, like we've got to be unified in all this because like if you've been through next steps, like we talk about unity pretty much in every next step because it's one of the things that's the most difficult to keep. So in all of this, like just know, like when you support a leader, when you are saying, man, like this is for your protection, this is, you know, those are things that are keeping our church and our community together. So that's really, really important.
Suggestions, just cut them up. In that lobby, it's very hard to, unless the way the lobby's laid out, sound panels.
Yep.
What about a headset that you put on and listen to the service?
We can talk
talk about that. It's all money. Like,
I know that.
yeah. But the thing is, yeah, we can talk about that. It's we've considered it for this phase. Like, that's gonna be a future thing. Like, for this phase, we have what we have, and so we're trying our best to make what we have work and be good stewards of what we have. That's why, if you notice, like, we've even lowered the volume in the lobby, because if you raise the level of the speaker in the lobby, what do people do? We were like, hey man, what's going on? Like, it is so loud. And even when we lowered the volume, people come up to me like, hey, I can't hear the message. I'm like,
Go outside.
you know, yeah.
You can hear
Like,
it.
you can
Yes, so if you ever do want to let them know, we do have speakers outside, and somebody will sit out on those little tables, and it's really peaceful out there. So that's
It's
another
also
option too.
super hot.
We did notice that, summer,
Yeah.
Florida.
So there's always
Yeah.
it's always like a little
Yeah, there's always gonna be
catch-22 with
something.
all of this.
Yeah.
Working with parents to volunteer in kids ministry because their kids struggling to drop off. You know, you always can like get them on track to volunteer.
Yeah, that's one of the ways that we have really dealt with that. There are certain kids that just hate being dropped off anywhere, and so what we challenge the parent to do is, hey, let's get you background check, let's get you on a schedule for your kid's room, get them comfortable in that room, and then you can actually leave. So, and that's worked wonders for a lot of us, because a lot of times their kid just doesn't want to be, they don't want to be separated from them. And so that's been working really well for us. You had a question? So sorry.
We have a disabled, guy that comes at the 11:30, and I know he does some disruptive things. How do we as auditorium hosts handle that? Is there any way that we can suggest that he attends the 9 o'clock?
Is it an adult?
I think so.
Okay, because that's just for kids. That's what's hard. Like it's for kids ministry, so anybody from like 1st through 12th grade is what goes in Voyagers. Actually don't have an answer for that, do you?
So, okay, let me make sure that I understand the question. The question is, he's an adult who
Yeah.
has maybe some special needs.
Yes.
Again, it's the power of persuasion. I would first build a relationship with that guy. So I know one of the guys that comes here that falls into that bucket. His name's Christian. He's a really good guy. And so I built a relationship with him. And then maybe, assuming that the team is fully staffed enough and with the auditorium team, what I would do there is I would introduce him to one of our greeting team people to start building that relationship, and then say, hey, Christian, I know that we got maybe some ice cream or something. You want to go like hang out outside? We can listen to the message. We can like talk and everything. And so it's almost your problem solving on the spot. How do I move this person from what they're doing now to what I want them to be doing, which is maybe moving them further away from the auditorium. But they still get the message. They still feel a part of the community, and so I don't have the perfect answer for that. I think it's a case-by-case situation, but just in everything, it's not that messaging of no, or you can't do that, but instead, how do we problem solve a way around this, and that way they still feel loved and understood and part of it, and they're still getting the message. Yeah, true, yeah. Kimberly, and so we maybe only have time for like 1 or 2 more questions, and then you can always connect.
Just, how far into the message can people still check in their kids?
Yeah.
So this is like the toughest part ever. Once worship has ended, we cannot check in kids anymore. Because what happens there, now, I'll explain that in a minute. What our goal is that once worship has ended, we do not want to check in any kids any later. Here's why. By that point in those classrooms, they have finally gotten the attention of all of those toddlers. Like, they have gotten 3- and 4-year-olds to sit in a line and they're watching a show, you know what I mean, for that interaction point. It is so distracting to a toddler room to walk in a toddler 25 minutes into the service. It's like when somebody walks into our service, everybody looks. Like, you could be zoned in on TJ, but the moment somebody walks in, you're like, oh, who's it? Oh, hey, I know them. Cool, awesome, great, cool, awesome. Toddlers are us, but worse. So that is the point of that goal. Now, let's say it's somebody's first experience, again, case by case, it is somebody's first time, they try to take their kid in there, it's not working, they say, hey, I'm so sorry, I didn't know about that rule, I will walk their kid back there. I will do it in a way that hopefully does not disrupt that classroom. Just, our goal is always to get those kids back in kids ministry. If I can do anything to get those kids back in kids ministry, I will. But yeah, the goal is like once worship has ended, we are not checking in any more kids. We kind of close up shop, we close the doors. Now it's a security thing as well. So anything that you can do possible to push that. Yes.
Great thing to say. Hey, we have another service coming up in about.
Sundays are great because you can just say, hey, we have
Sunday's great. Saturday's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. Or just encourage, a lot of times what we do at the kids check-in is we encourage them next week. Let's try next week. Next week, let's try to put them in kids ministry and let's see how that goes. We always go to next week. Let's try next week. So that they feel welcomed, that they feel invited, that we're not ruining the rooms that are already established and focused and those kids are like locked into those teachers, which is taken all 20 minutes. And then we're not ruining. So we don't, once worship has ended, that's kind of it. Now, again, I would say for you guys, walk them over to kids ministry and allow kids ministry to explain that. There is normally always somebody at kids check-in. And allow us to kind of give vision for that, just because we can explain it in a different way, and maybe we're all trained to handle those types of conversations. So if at any point in time, like again, we just want you to have an overview. At any point in time that you don't feel comfortable having a conversation, grab anybody on kids check-in, because we talk about these conversations all the time and how to handle them. Yep.
Well, let's go ahead and we'll go, I'm going to explain the second part of our breakout session.
And just know that I'm available
Yes.
at any point in time. If you guys want to come ask me questions, I'll be here today, or I'm always here on the weekend. So if you have any questions about kids ministry, just come and ask.
But thank you guys. I mean, those were good questions and we have it videoed. So as long as technology doesn't fail us, I'm going to send out that video, but